If you're enjoying the podcast episodes on Shannon Confidential, go ahead and click subscribe. Thank you so much for your support. If you're enjoying Shannon Confidential podcast episodes and would like to see more, please visit my Patreon account. You'll have access to clips from past episodes, teasers of upcoming episodes, and the ability to submit questions that I will answer to you directly. Thank you so much for your support. All right, this is the woman I just told all of you about. This is Jennifer Allie Kern. She is a rock star. She is just, wait till you meet her. I fell in love with her the moment I had an intro call with her. So I am so excited to bring you Jennifer Allie Kern to Shannon Confidential. Jennifer, thank you so much for being a guest on my podcast.
Thank you for having me here, Shannon.
Oh my God, you're the best. I want you to tell everybody what you do, how you came to this. Just give everybody a bit of your backstory, and then we'll dive into the amazing stuff that you do.
Okay, so I think the overarching thing that I do is I help people navigate their spiritual path and their spiritual awakening experience and come more into alignment with who they really are so they can live their best lives. And I do that through a variety of different facets, which I think we're going to be talking about today. But that's sort of the biggest like nuts and bolts of it is how do you live your best life in this human experience as a spiritual being? I think that it's confusing for a lot of people. I think there's a lot of misinformation or misunderstood information. And so I have a particular way of breaking it down to help people make sense of it so that they can get practical application and really make it work for them in their lives.
Brilliantly stated. So this is the thing. I have done different episodes where I talk to different healers or leaders. I have a whole hours and hours of stuff where I discuss the matrix. And I'm not saying that's what you do, but this whole thing about the spirituality of us and the human part of us and the healing and our soul's journey has been somewhat new to me, I would say, over the past couple of years. So I would call that rather new. And a lot of it, I can't lie. Before I thought that was like stuff, the theory people, but as I learned more and more and more about it, I really realized it is absolutely real, absolutely amazing. And once you really dive into it, I could not get over how intrigued I was. It was like sucking me in. I couldn't wait to learn more. And when I had the intro call with you, you did do exactly what you said. You broke it down. You made it understandable, not sound like crazy cosmic stuff. So if you could break that down the way you did for me, because it truly is fascinating.
Okay, so break down which part? Being a spiritual being in the human experience?
Yes. And then how you teach people to understand that in themselves, or however you do it in your practice.
Well, so when I do it in my practice, I'm a very, very visually oriented person. So you can kind of see behind me here a little bit. I've got my whiteboard and I'm a whiteboard junkie. So I like putting everything in pictures because a picture really is worth 1,000 words. And so I like to break it down as thinking about the 4 main parts of your mind, understanding that mind is a process. It's not a thing. Mind is how energy moves through you. And so the 4 main aspects of our mind are the soul mind, which is that spiritual aspect of you, the brain mind, where you're thinking about things, your heart mind, where you have your emotions, and then the body mind, which is where you take action. And this is like a holistic system that works together so that your soul can be engaged in this like wild earth plane. And so it's pretty wild. So when we're talking about the spiritual experience, the operating assumption is that if you're a spiritual being in the human experience, your soul came into this experience with a particular agenda. It has things that it wants to do, it wants to learn, ways it wants to grow, kinds of lessons it's coming in with, who it wants to do that with, where it feels called to be in the earth, all of these different things that really manifest themselves as your life. And so you, in your human experience, have free will. And you get to choose. I mean, we are living like the ultimate choose your own adventure novel. And so whatever you're choosing is what's manifesting in your life. And so that choice point comes in how you're thinking and how you're focusing your energy. And that thinking then translates into emotion. And emotion, like how you feel, is your feedback about whether or not what you're thinking and focusing on is in alignment with your soul's agenda and where your soul wants to go. When you are in alignment, everything feels good. It's easy. It's effortless. Like you get all those synchronicities. You have those things that just magically kind of happen in your life. It's like you're thinking about somebody and they magically call. Or you were looking for something at a store. You were just saying like, hey, I want to get one of these. And your neighbor shows up with one of these, right? It's those little kinds of things. When you're out of alignment, you feel bad. And things are hard. They're sticky. They're effortful. You feel frustrated. You don't feel like yourself. So that's sort of like the simple gauge for knowing whether or not you are living your human life in alignment with what your soul is calling you to.
Okay. That's fantastic. So if I'm aligned, would it be the same thing, say, with just tons and tons of coincidence happening around you? You're thinking about somebody like you just said, and all of a sudden you get a text message, or you're thinking about different ways to earn money, and then there's a job opportunity, or just sometimes it's really hard to even understand. Like things happen so coincidentally, you're just like, wait a second, like I was just thinking that, and then I just passed a billboard that told me to do that, or my horoscope said exactly what I was praying for. Are those things that are those the signs? People say there's signs all the time if you just pay attention. Are those types of signs that say, okay, you're in alignment with your soul?
I would say yes, fundamentally, that's the easiest way to think about it, because we're always being guided. So every individual has something called an Akashic Record, which is basically where information is stored about your soul's journey. If we think about it in scientific terms, we would call it the quantum field or the matrix or the unified field. But everyone has their own Akashic Record. And so information is coming through that to you in the form of ideas, impulses, inspired thoughts, intuitions. Right? That's how you access that information. And the human brain is a supercomputer that just decodes this stuff for you. And you think like, oh, I just had this idea about I want this, and boom, there's a billboard for it. Right? Because you got this external confirmation about something you were already being guided to.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes. No, it totally makes sense. And
let me just finish that thought, because I want to answer your question, which is, if I'm in alignment, are these signs that I'm in alignment? Absolutely. Because if you are not in alignment, your brain may very well not even pick up on those cues, because you're not vibrationally in tune and in harmony with that thing that you're being called to. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, it truly is fascinating once you feel that peace, that alignment, that open heartness. I'm not even sure what you would call it. It is phenomenal how the world opens up. I mean, I really cannot describe it. It's just one of those things is once you get there, or even start to get there, you can't unsee what you're seeing happening before your eyes. It truly is magical.
It's really, well, we call it magical because we don't know how to describe it or understand it, right? And it has that feeling of magic because it's something that's happening sort of like out there in the ether, right? And then it comes into your manifested experience and you're like, whoa, like
how'd that happen?
Right? But it's sort of like the great magician of the universe already has this stuff all planned out.
So you could almost say, okay, so if our souls are on their journey, It's already been decided. They're already working behind the scenes. We just haven't woken up enough to realize what's going on yet. So are we all at a place in our human existence exactly where we're supposed to be? Or do we fight that soul's journey and end up in places we shouldn't be?
That is a really great question. So I'm a big, big, big believer that everything you experience is within the context of your soul's agenda. Otherwise, it would not be there. But that's a wide scope, because you have human free will, and that's where your choice comes in. That's where you're thinking. How are you focusing? What kind of emotions are you tolerating and indulging, or seeking and expanding? Right? Are you tolerating feeling bad a lot of the time? In which case, you're not in alignment with the highest expression of your soul's agenda, but you're still within the scope of things that your soul came here to learn. So usually, it's when you're feeling bad and you have things that kind of keep reoccurring in your life, that you keep fighting or resisting, it's because you haven't allowed yourself to do the growth to move through that.
To learn from it, right?
To learn from it and evolve beyond it. But I don't think there's anything bad. I don't think there's anything wrong with any of it. It's just, are you at a point in your journey that you're enjoying your life? Are you feeling good? Are you, using the quote unquote God-given gifts and talents that you have? Are you contributing to other people? Are you feeling connected? Are you feeling well supported? Are you feeling loved? Are you feeling love for yourself, love for others? Are you following your intuition? Are you having fun? Are you playing? Do you feel good most of the time? Are you happy? These are the questions, because that's really what we're reaching for. And when those things are present, you are aligned with the highest expression of your soul's agenda.
Which it sounds, it's good. It's love. It's happiness. Once you bring all of that happiness and that openness and that awakeness and acceptance, and everything starts to come aligned, it's a very happy place. It's a very joyous and calm and peaceful place. These are all beautiful, beautiful emotions that we as humans want to feel.
Absolutely. And it makes things easier. Everything's just easy. It just shows up. It is so effortless.
And I'm telling you, hand to God, when I was first learning about all of this, and people, exactly what you just said, things just show up. It's just really effortless. I thought, okay, come on. And it's not effortless. Like, okay, I'm just going to be happy today, and all of a sudden I'm going to win the lotto. It's not like that. It's a full body openness that I just thought, really, I did not believe. It's just, I guess I was just the kind of person that needed to be convinced. I was open to it, but I needed to be convinced. And I did, just very naturally, just thinking and learning and listening. You just kind of evolve, and it starts to just happen in you just by just slight effort. It's not like this whole big thing you have to do. And I'm probably not anywhere near where I need to be, but I could see it, just like you said, things just started to happen, and it was effortless. It was like right before my eyes.
Yeah, things will just appear effortlessly. The thing that I think is an important distinction to make is effortless does not mean actionless.
Exactly.
But it means that the action you're taking feels good. It feels smooth. It feels easy. It's like you're kind of skating along the ride, and things are just coming to you, but you still have to take action in order to manifest things.
Yeah, I do the work.
So, yeah, absolutely. You still have to make choices. You still have to follow the impulses and the intuitive guidance and that kind of thing.
So for someone like you, that is, you're a Akashic master healer, you're a high conscious consultant. How did you discover that you had that ability or that inside of you to use it, pay it forward, teach it? How did you find that out?
It's a journey like anything. Originally, when I was a kid, I thought I was going to go down the path of psychology, because I was really interested in dreams and the brain and talking to people and helping them. And then I actually took a detour and went down the path of international business, mostly because the school I wanted to go to was in Europe, and I
Really?
didn't live there. And then I came back around and did my master's in psychology, thinking that I was going to have to get a doctorate in order to practice psychology, to be a psychotherapist or whatever expression I was going to want. And I started down that path and I hated it. I was in class. I started on the doctorate path and I was in class. And I remember one day I just started crying because I was like, I hate this. This is not what I wanted, because it was all about pathology. It was all about here how people are broken and messed up, right? And we need to fix them. And that just never resonated for me, because I always believed in people, and I always believed in the spirit, and I always believed in the ability to rise, etc. And so I started talking to the professors and guidance counselors and whoever, and somebody said, I think what you're interested in is coaching. And I was like, well, what's that? This is a number of years ago. And so anyway, I ended up following the breadcrumbs and found the Coaches Training Institute, which is the world's largest in-person coach training organization. And they've trained worldwide. And I ended up in one of their classes, and that was the day I went home and opened my business. That was in 2009. I said, this is it. This is where I'm supposed to be, because I knew that everything I wanted to work with was about, taking people from where they are into the higher expressions of who they are and where they want to go. And so once I started down that path, then I continued with additional kinds of trainings like neuro-linguistic programming and neuroscience and consciousness and transformational coaching, and just all this different kind of study. And in the backdrop, I was doing all of my own study with the work of like Abraham Hicks. If you're familiar with them, they talk a lot about the law of attraction. And so I started just kind of like bringing all these different pieces together. I worked with Bob Proctor, who has had a lot of work around especially money mindset, but really ultimately the manifestation process and working with universal laws. And so, over the years, I gradually just built my own system and, pulled together all of these, different concepts that I'd been studying for a long time. And so I built a system called Lead in Alignment, and it's a 12-module program. It's very intensive, but it takes people through everything they need to know, putting together all of the pieces of spiritual principle, universal law, and the neuroscience behind it, and then also like the perspective of the soul. So it really brings everything together. But it is something that was a culmination over years, and of course, my own life experience. Where I really thoroughly tested this stuff. Like, if I'm going to teach it, I have to be able to live it.
So how did you do that?
Well, so I went through, I was married, and then I got unmarried. And when I was going through that process, one of the things I had a lot of fear about was finances. I had a husband who was a six-figure earner, and I was building my business, but, I was able to do a lot of other things, like take time off to write my first book and take care of my grandmother when she was in her last couple of years of life, and, be her primary caregiver and take care of my stepdaughter and, all these other things. So I wasn't especially focused on building my business in a big way at that time. And I think I hadn't earned more than like $60,000 in a year. And that was fine because, we had a co-earning household. And so when it came time to have that separation, because I just knew, wonderful, wonderful man, but I just knew for where I was being called to go, I didn't see us being able to do that together.
Okay.
And, and a variety of other things in the backdrop. But once that time came, I was really, really scared. I started studying, especially at that time, Bob Proctor's work. He has a program from back in like the 1980s called Born Rich. And I just studied the crap out of it. I was up every night at 3:00 in the morning. I would just wake up, I would go meditate, and I would study. And it was all about how do you groom your vibrations, my language, how do you groom your vibration to align with the future essentially that you want to manifest, the life that you want to create for yourself. And so I just dug into that work and just studied. And at some point it was like, okay, I can do this. I can make more money. I can be more independent. I can, be on my own, just all of those things. It was cutting through my own limiting beliefs fundamentally. And so at the time that I had the actual separation, and now I was taking over responsibility for a six-figure lifestyle, because my then husband moved out and I took responsibility for those things. It was like, okay, it's time to up my game. And I came across some of Bob Proctor's programs. And I was on the phone with one of his representatives who said, oh, we've got like, the Matrix and the Paradigm Shift and the 1% Club. I said, what's that one? And he said, oh, it's this great program where, you get to go to Hawaii and you spend a week with Bob in an intimate setting. And, we just have a lot of fun. I said, that's the one I want. He said, great, that'll be $60,000. And now I never made more than $60,000 in a year in my life. Plus I was taking over from this like 6-figure lifestyle. And I said, okay, let's do it. And it was April and the program was in November. I said, when do you need it by? He said, before you come to Hawaii in November. It's like, okay, so I've got 6 months for this. So I'm kind of working through this in my head, right? Like I can do this. If I believe everything about the law of attraction and manifestation and everything that I've been studying, I have to do this. Wow. And anyway, so the short version is I signed up for it. I said, how much do you need to start? And he said, well, we can start with this amount. So every month I was like paying like $5,000, $10,000, to Bob Proctor for this program. I used to say, I'm giving all my money to Bob Proctor, who doesn't need my money. Right? But I mean, it was for me, right? It was for me to know that I could do this.
Exactly.
And I'm telling you right now, Shannon, it was November. I think I left on November 4th and it was November 3rd. And I literally did not have the last $5,000. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to talk to these guys tomorrow morning before the flight that's already booked. I was sitting on my couch that night and I got an email that I had a $5,000 invoice from a client that got filled. And I remember I got up off the couch and like walked into the middle of the living room and just like was on my knees bawling, saying, thank you. Like,
that's what I'm talking about. That's the signs.
Yeah. I don't have to anymore. Right. But there's a very specific process here that I learned, which is because all of that again is within the purview of my soul's agenda. And this was a big quantum leap. Like I want to go there, damn it. And I put in all the hours of meditation and I took the risks and I put the money in, like all of that. And my business expanded. My business almost tripled that year.
Fantastic.
Almost tripled that year. Because there was a powerful declaration that I made on behalf of my soul's journey, on behalf of spirit, on behalf of the well-being of anyone who I would ever serve again. At that, and from that moment forward, right? Like I get this stuff. I know how to use it. I know how to make it work in my life. And I want this and better for everyone that I touch. And so, that's part of how that was made available. But I had to like really fix my sights on, this is the version of reality that I want to experience and the path I want to go down. And I'm not taking no for an answer. So universe, make it rain.
It did.
It did.
Do you think some of that really positive things that the universe puts right in front of you, when I say you, I'm talking in general, but we'll talk about you in this specific case, that it put it in front of you and made it achievable? It was in your grasp, it was in your reach. You got there, you got to see it through, because you were then going to take that knowledge and pay it forward. You were going to do positive work with it.
Absolutely. I mean, fundamentally, everything that's happening like to us, with us, through us, it's for our own joy, first and foremost, our own growth, first and foremost. It's always about your own soul's journey. And yes, there's also part of my soul's journey is to teach. It's to teach, it's to understand, it's to write, it's to help people come into their own higher expression. And so for me to live that, and in multiple instances in my life, this is just one of those stories that's particularly clear. Yeah, I think absolutely that's part of it, because it's a co-creation. It's a co-creation. It's a collaborative effort. And, anything that is coming to fruition like that in this manifested form, it's first been scripted in on the spiritual level. So we could say like souls who are here to learn from me and grow with me, they will already have had that intention set on the spiritual planes before coming into the human life. So when we're making our choices, every choice that you make that is aligned for you, that feels good, that is, riveting and exciting and challenging in the yummy way, and all of that, that's making you expand and grow, that will always have a positive ripple effect. That's part of why you're guided that way.
Okay.
Make sense?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Now, I would never be able to explain it like you did, but I completely understand it. I guess I have to go to Hawaii to learn how to explain it.
Nothing wrong with a little trip to Hawaii, Shannon.
I was going to say, now you say people come to you because you're going to coach them, be their consultant, and you have this process. Talk us through, if someone wants to reach you, which of course I'll make sure everybody can reach you in all the show notes, but once someone contacts you, what's the next step? How do they get, how do they learn from you?
Yeah, I think the first thing, so there are a couple different things, a few different things. So one is something that would be like the easy button, easy access would be, I wrote a book. I'm in the process of writing the second book right now, but I wrote a book called The Drama-Free Way, Authentic Thriving in a Chaotic World. And it really breaks down how we get pulled out of alignment through the things that cause drama in our lives and in the world around us. And then it teaches you how to build back and come to a space of healing within so that you're more consistently in alignment. So that's one thing. I would say in terms of working with me directly, the best place to start is to have an Akashic Record session. So I do Akashic Records consulting and healing. And basically that's coming into a conversation where I am an interpreter for people to understand more of the information that's in their own Akashic records. So again, the Akashic Record, some people describe it as like a spiritual library, okay, where, all the information about your soul's journey is held and you have your own Akashic Records book. I also like to describe it as like the cloud for the soul. So because it's a place where information is stored in a vibrational form. And so it's sort of like, well, let me just back up for a second. It's information stored in a vibrational form, and you are always getting that information again in like intuitive impulses, insights, ideas. It's part of your birthright to have that information because that's part of what's guiding you along your journey. Now, how you get that information, how well you listen to it, that's part of your experience and your journey. Someone like me comes in as an interpreter. Okay. So it's kind of like this. If you want to know something about flowers, right? And you're going to pick up your phone and you're going to open your Google and you're going to ask Google about flowers. And you know that the information about flowers is not sitting in the little box in your hand, right? The information about the flowers is in the cloud, right? And the little box in your hand is just interpreting the information so you can read it and learn it. Make sense?
Yes, very much.
The human brain is like that with the Akash, with the field, the quantum field. It's constantly getting that information and interpreting it in terms of images that you get, sounds, direct messages. Sometimes it's body sensations. Just a moment ago, Shannon, you had some goosebumps. Yeah. Right. That's like, you're picking up on energy around you and information coming in from the field that's telling you there's something that's about, there's a truth in the space. Okay. So when I interpret the Akashic Records, when I work with someone in the Akashic Records, I'm basically being an interpreter or a translator. Okay. So it's like if you go to another country and you don't speak the language, you can get by with hand gestures and facial expressions and body language. You can communicate a lot, but as soon as you have an interpreter come in, now you can have a very fluid conversation. So again, you're always getting information from your Akashic Records, but when you have an Akashic Records consultant or practitioner come in, now you can have a very streamlined conversation about the information that's in there. You can get information from your spiritual guides, you know, that are going to answer the questions about anything that's happening in your life. It's usually about relationships. A lot of times it's about, you know, parenting or significant other relationships, or, you know, working with your own, you know, things with your own parents or family of origin. A lot of times it's about career, life purpose, business. It can be about, sometimes it's about health or finances. Anything that's part of this material realm, the information to guide you is in the Akashic Records. So I help people interpret that so that they can have more clarity, so that they feel more confidence in their own intuition, because you probably already know.
Oh, if you're asking the question, something's talking to you.
It's already in there, but you just haven't been able to pull it apart, or you have too much chatter in your brain about, you know, messages about how you think life should be, that your soul might be saying, yeah, but it's not like that. We want to go this direction, or here's how this is going to be better, or whatever. So in an Akashic Record session, I help people with that. So getting the information, or sometimes it could be about healing in relationships, healing, limiting beliefs, you know, or like sort of like those invisible blocks, things that you feel kind of hold you back. Sometimes it's more up-leveling and clearing work. So again, this is all like energetic work. Sometimes it is physical healing. But again, because we're working with energy, and energy is the foundation of everything. And we're working with energy specific to your soul's template, your soul's signature frequency. And so everything in that is going to benefit you. So I always say, like, that was a really long answer.
No, but it was fabulous. It was just full of fabulous detail.
Yeah. But that's a great way for people to start. And I just have a link for that on my website that you can book a session.
That was my next question. First, how to book it. And is this something that you do over the phone? You do a meeting like this in person? How is that done? If someone's not in your area, you could still do this with them.
Virtual. Even if someone is in my area, it's all virtual. Part of it is because I like to use a conference line so I can record the session. I want people to feel in a place where they're relaxed, you know, where they can just sink into the experience, where they don't have to try to remember everything, or not distracted, you know, by screens or by a strange environment or that kind of thing. Just be home, be where you're relaxed. I'm going to record the session. You will get the recording afterwards. So you can just be in the experience and then go back and listen, because you always pick up on something later.
Yeah.
After you've had a chance to process it. So that's my preferred way of doing it. You know, so that's when I'm doing Akashic Record sessions. The other work that I do is, like I mentioned, the lead and alignment, and that's more coaching and mentoring and teaching. That's a system that I mentioned earlier, which is pulling together the spiritual principles, universal laws, neuroscience, and soul's journey. And that's a much longer program. So I'll do that in groups, or I'll do that in individual VIP work. And in that instance, I like to be on Zoom at least part of the time, because I'm a whiteboard junkie and I want to teach using that visual capacity.
Oh my God. So I have stuff. You have me on the edge of my seat. My mouth is probably hanging open the whole time, just listening to you talk. I just find it fascinating. So when you are helping people in sessions with their Akashic Records and learning their spiritual journey and their soul's journey and where they're supposed to be and aligning them, did you have to learn your own, or did someone else do your Akashic Records session?
Great question. The first time I had an Akashic Record session, it was done for me, and that was in 2013. And I was working with this woman who ultimately became my teacher. I was working with her for about 4 years, and in 2017, she said, "Jennifer, do you want to learn to access the Akashic Records?" And of course, I jumped at the chance.
Yeah.
I was like, yes, I want to learn this. What? So I started training in the records in 2017, and I went through the whole 2 years of solid years of training, you know, to reach this point of, you know, master healer is what they say. And, you know, and of course, as always, I'm always learning and growing. So But then in 2019, I actually started to be called to teach and train other people to access the Akashic Record. So that's also a program that I offer. It's called Epic Akashic. And I take small groups through learning how to access the records. So there's an initiation process and then a training process that goes along with it. And again, to me, it's super important to understand the neuroscience of how it works. So I teach a lot about that aspect, because when you understand how your brain works as a supercomputer to translate this information, it makes it a lot easier. It makes it make more sense. And it takes it out of the realm of woo-woo and into like really practical, real life. Makes total sense. Why would I live any other way?
Okay.
Yeah. So
I have to tell you
that training in 2019. So, it's just something that, again, this path just kind of unfolded for me, and I just keep saying yes. The next thing is there, and I just keep saying yes.
Yeah. Now, the first time you had your Akashic Records done, to me, I just find it that would be like a mind-blowing experience. Was it just...
Yeah, it was. I didn't know what to expect. And most people coming into a session like this, they're not really sure what to expect, but it got recommended or they heard about it and they feel called to it. I had that experience. And I remember that day I had a session with my coach at the time. And I was telling him, yeah, I'm going to do this Akashic Records thing. And he said, oh my God, are you talking to Bryn? And I said, well, yeah, how do you know Bryn? He says, everybody knows Bryn. And I said, well, okay, so what do you recommend? He said, don't test her. A lot of people come into this kind of a session and they want to check you out and see, like, do you really know your stuff? Like, what can you really see about me? And he said, don't test her. She's the real deal. Just get in and get your stuff done. And so I went in with that mindset, which really helped me because I just kind of relaxed and said, okay, I'm just going to trust. I don't know what this is. It's new, it's unfamiliar, but I keep getting good recommendations and I'm open and let's see. And she did know things that I was like, okay, there's no way anyone could know these things, but it's in the records. Now, here's something that's important to say, because I think some people could go in with reservations like, oh my God, you're going to open this and you're going to like see everything about me. Or, what if it opens up, dark energies and that kind of stuff. And here's the number one thing to know. When you're working in the Akashic Records, we are only working with energies of pure love and light.
Okay.
There's no dark energy there. There's only healing, only clarity, only goodness, only peace, only love. Now, we might be looking at parts of your soul's experience that have darkness to it. And darkness just being a state of separation from who you really are. That's what we experience as darkness. And that's pain.
Okay.
So, but we're going to be addressing that in the context of a lot of like really loving energy. That's number one. Number two is there are illumined beings called record keepers. They'd say the keepers of the Akashic Records, lords of the Akashic Records. And these are beings that are protecting your soul's information. So anything that is not meant for me as a practitioner to know or for you to have access to at this time, it's just not going to come through. And when we're working in the records, then, it's always a positive experience. Always a positive experience. I think I've had one session that stands out in my mind in the last few years, maybe two, that, I kind of walked away from wondering like, gosh, was that, how did that sit with the person? Then I followed up with them, and talked through anything that maybe, seemed a little glitchy or wasn't clear. It's usually if it's not clear. So, but that's, in thousands of sessions. So
yeah,
most people experience is that clarity and peace, healing, upliftment, guidance.
Oh my, it just sounds incredible. And how long is a session?
I usually spend about an hour.
An hour?
Yeah. It's a good amount of time. Sometimes we go a little longer. Sometimes people are ready to wrap a little shorter. It depends. If I've got someone I'm working with, who I've been working with for a long time, they might just come in and say, okay, at 45 minutes or whatever, they say, okay, yeah, we're done for today.
I'm good.
Next time. Yeah, like that. So.
And that all this scheduling this and all of this is on the website that you, so everybody, if, whoever's listening, watching, it's going to be all linked up in the show notes, how to reach Jennifer and do any form of healing that you need from her is going to be in the links that you've provided, correct?
Yep. So the scheduling link is for an Akashic Record session. That's what's in on my website. If someone is interested in more of that coaching, mentoring, or a program like Lead in Alignment or Epic Akashic, then that's something, just connect with me directly. And there's a contact page on my website too.
Oh my gosh. All right. So what else is Jennifer Allie Kern?
Okay, so this is a fun one, Shannon, and I know that you did your like behind the scenes prep for this because I saw your comments on the YouTube videos.
I had to.
Last year, I inadvertently became a comedian.
Okay. This is what throws me. Here I am, this higher being person, and I inadvertently became a stand-up comedian, because that just happens to everybody, right?
Yeah, it's what I told you. I just keep saying yes. Things are in front of me. I'm like, yes, I'll do this. So last year, I had a friend of mine talking to me about, doing improv. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love improv. I haven't done it for so long. I live in West Palm Beach, Florida, and the Palm Beach Improv Theater is literally 2 blocks from my home. And I'd never gone there, never thought about it. And he was like, yeah, I'm going to take this class. I'm like, I'll do it with you. So I signed up for this class, and I get there and it's Comedy 101 at the Improv Theater. So I'm like, I'm taking an improv class. I get there, and by the way, it's me and like 8 boys in the class. There are no other girls in the class. The teacher's a man too. And he's like, yeah, we're going to do stand up, this and that. I'm like, ooh, what? No,
yeah, I would have been like that.
I was like, no, this is
Rapunzel,
an improv class.
I would.
I'm like, this is an improv class. He's like, no, it's stand-up comedy. I was like, I didn't sign up for stand-up comedy. I can't just get on the stage and make people laugh.
My stomach would have gone.
I'm not a joke teller. That's what's going through my mind, right? So the way they set it up, it's 6 sessions, it's 6 consecutive weeks. So every Tuesday you go, and they say, just get up on stage and talk. What do you want to talk about? I was like, I don't know what I want to talk about. So it was just this really incredible process of like going through define, like, what would I want to say? What do I think is funny? How can I be funny? And there were days, Shannon, he had me on that stage. Out of a 3-hour class, I was standing there for an hour of it. Because I was the worst one in the class. I was the worst one.
That just sounds terrifying to me. I can get up and dance in front of crowds of thousands and thousands of people, but tell me to get up on stage and tell jokes to 5 people. No, not interested. Not me.
Same way. I was like, oh my God. But I said, I signed up for it. I said I was going to do it. I'm going to do it. I can learn. I'm going to do it. So they do 6 classes. The first 5 classes, it's that get together with your group, go, tell jokes on stage, see how it lands. They help you kind of rewrite it, revise it a little bit, but it's just like, go practice. There wasn't even any real like structure or like.
That's what I was going to say.
No. And I wanted to know those things. And the teacher was like, nope, just go talk. And I had some breakdown moments. I mean, these guys were good. They were good because, I had to break through some of those layers of resistance. The 6th class is your graduation. And they put you on stage in front of a live audience.
Is that the video I saw? The first one?
Yes. And I was not expecting this, Shannon. It was at the Palm Beach Improv Theater. I bet there were like between 200 and 250 people there. And a bunch of other comedians too. So we had our little graduation class, and of the 8 of us that started, only 4 of us graduated. Right. One guy moved away and a couple other guys, got busy or dropped out or whatever. So yeah. And so I had a bunch of people show up too. I had almost 20 people come, like just to see me there, my friends and community and that kind of thing. And so I was so nervous.
You didn't look like it.
And I was practicing that set to pieces, because the other part that was challenging, you can only do up to 5 minutes.
And 5 minutes goes by fast.
5 minutes goes super. I mean, I had
so fast.
It was like 10 or 20. I'm sure I started with 20 minutes. I had to keep cutting. But it was such a great learning process. And, ultimately I got up there. I had so much fun. I had such a great response from the audience. I mean, I was just kind of like, I walked off of it. My friend who originally started the class with me, he would just went nuts. He was like, what just happened? He's
You
like,
killed it.
first one. How did you go from like kindergarten to college in 6 weeks?
Seriously. So I have so many questions right now. First of all, the link to watch Jennifer is going to be below us in the show notes. She's flipping hysterical. And let me tell you, it's not all goody two shoes. She's funny, but get prepared. It's a different side to Jennifer. The flip side, actually. So when you put your, I don't know the terminology, is it a set? What do you call it when you're putting together your routine?
Yeah, it's a set.
It's a set.
Comedy is a set.
Where did you dial in to say, okay, this is what my set's going to be about? Because I know comedians, they talk about this or a little bit of that, but there's, you're on a journey with them. They know what they're going to say in advance. How do you decide that? To me, this is a whole nother language.
Yeah. So for me, it was, you pulling from life stories and some things current, some things past. I tell some childhood stories in there. I tell some, like quirky dating stories in there, relationship stories. To me, that's the stuff that's,
the relatable stuff.
Like it's relatable stuff, and it's sort of like truth is funnier than fiction, or maybe stranger than fiction. But true stuff is the funniest stuff. So I pull from that. Of course, most of it's embellished to some degree, because that's where the comedy comes in.
Yeah.
That's what makes it funny. So I just pick stories that I think are like quirky and funny. I'm also, there's a football set. So you can put both of
very
those
creative
too, Shannon, if you want, because I love that one. I actually want to expand that one. I've been playing with that one in different ways because, once you get the ball rolling, now you can start to, extrapolate and expand. So I'm a big football fan. And so I've got some football funnies in there. And so it's, just anything that's part of my life that's, I'll be having a conversation with friends and I'll go, wait a minute. Oh my gosh, that was perfect for a comedy, like a perfect setup for a comedy right there.
Oh my gosh. So tell me, did you ever have the wah, wah, wah moment, or have you just been fantastic from the start?
No, I did. In fact, after the original graduation class where everybody was like cracking up dying, I went and did the same set at an open mic, the first open mic I've ever went to, and it was crickets.
Really? That was a good set.
Crickets. I was just like, oh my God. I was like, just keep going. But then I could feel myself getting nervous.
Like
so now there's
shrinking.
the whole self-management thing that comes in. So yeah, I was like, you know what? Good. Yay. I checked that box. Now I know what it's like to feel that.
I got rid of that fear. Faced it. It's gone.
Okay. Maybe I need to know my audience better.
That's what I was just going to say. Do you prep a set based on who you're performing it in front of?
I mean, in general, I would, based on, if I know if I'm going to, for example, if I'm going to be speaking for a group. So let's say I'm going to take some of this spiritual teaching, right, and go speak for a group. I'm going to build some comedy in, right, that's relevant to that. And then it's going to be, specific for that group. But in general, what I've done so far has just been kind of a general audience. I've done a few more private events that, again, that it's a general audience that's interested in, poetry and comedy and entertainment. And then I've done open mics. So I can't really prep for that as a specific audience. But to answer your question, yes, I would if I knew, okay, I'm going to go speak for this, women's leadership group, right?
Okay.
Then I can do like very specific, it'll be teaching and comedy. And that's part of like what's really fun about this, because, the work that I've been doing for, over 10 years has been all this, teaching and spiritual and universal laws and that kind of thing. And I tend to be, a little more serious, but I bring in some playfulness. But now, like having comedy, right? The beautiful thing about comedy is that it opens the brain.
Okay.
And it makes your mind more susceptible to taking in information. and it lightens the space. And that's something that I think is really important and really needed, especially in the spiritual space right now. More play, more fun, more lightness, more comedy. You know, people take this spiritual stuff so seriously. It's like, if I'm not oming on top of the mountain, I'm not spiritual enough, right? And I got to be super serious for that. And I'm like, yeah, but if you're not in the party in the backyard too, like what the hell is the damn point? You know, like, we need to play, we need to have fun, we need to be romping about, we need to be silly, we need to be goofy. And when you can bring those energies together, you know, I think that's a magical mix. And that's what the sexy guru is about. So the sexy guru is that, you know, sort of other side of me.
Sexy guru.
The sexy guru is that other side of me, right? That's, you know, taking this like high spiritual wisdom stuff and bringing it in through laughter, through play, through dancing, through, you know, just living life like every day's a party.
Oh my gosh. So how many more, how often are you standing up on stage doing comedy?
You know, I am going to say right now, it's only been about once a month. So it is something that I am working on doing more of. You know, part of it's timing, part of it's writing, part of it's other projects. I'm in the middle of writing my next book right now too. So, you know, having different kinds of writing going on is just a lot right now. So, but it is something that I will be picking up and doing more of, because it's fun.
You're good. You are really good.
It's not easy, but it is fun.
When you first started talking, I sat in front of my Surface Pro going, oh my God. Wasn't expecting that. It was brilliant. I loved it. I loved it.
You don't expect that right out the gate, do you?
No, not after our intro call and all the spirituality and you know, consulting and healing. And then you're like, oh, by the way, here's some links to my comedy. I was like, what?
And they're not long sets. The videos are like 6 or 7 minutes.
It's
Anyone who wants to watch it when you're ready for just like a good little chuckle and you just need to raise your vibration for a minute, you know, have a little laugh. Those are some good videos to watch.
Yes, yeah, you definitely did that.
I'll tell you something, Shannon, was really funny. I actually have a woman I know from yoga who, you know, I invited to the comedy, and she ended up not being able to go, but she watched the video later with her husband. And, you know, they thought like, oh my gosh, like this girl's crazy and, you know, hysterical. And then a few months later, she talked to me about doing one of my programs, and her husband like, wait a minute. The spiritual teacher, she's the one who did that comedy set. Like, are we sure this is the same person? You know,
I'm telling you, it's the flip side.
It's part of the beauty of embracing all the aspects of who you are, because you get to have this wide range of experience in life. We're here for all of it.
And you're fearless.
Well,
I mean, you had some, but you faced it.
Yeah, I did. You know, and that is something that it's like, you know, that's part of the growth journey. And, you know, this is actually one of the things that I teach, which is something called the law of rhythm, which is what it sounds like. Everything has a rhythm to it in life, which means it has ebb and flow. It has contraction and expansion. And anytime that you are moving in the direction of an expansion, you have to have fear be part of the process, because fear is your system saying, you know, I register something that's foreign and different, and I don't know how to respond to it. So you're always going to have doubt, fear, and anxiety as part of it. And that's why we do that grooming your vibration to prepare for.
Okay.
Don't just jump like right into, you know, that next expression or experience or level of being. You have to step your way into it. So some of that is a mental training and emotional training, and then of course going through the physical actions. And you know, fear, when you understand, for me, understanding that fear is just noticing a vibrational gap. That's all it is. It's telling me there's a gap between where I am and where I think I'm going.
Makes it sound so easy.
And I can close a gap. And you close a gap by learning. You close a gap by practicing. You close a gap by feeling good as much as you can or as long as you can, you know, before you go back into a contraction. And, and to me, that's where understanding the laws of the universe and how energy works through you, it demystifies it and makes it really approachable to move into what it is that you really want and who you're born to be and what you're, and how you're becoming that person.
When you explain it like that, it almost sounds, well, actually it's very sad when you see a friend or a family member or just someone, maybe just an acquaintance that would love to do something, but they're frozen by their own fear. And you just go, oh gosh, if you could just get past that block, that, as you said, that vibration, that you just learn from it, you'll get there. But so many people they just stop dead because of fear.
Yeah. Yep. And I've seen it, and I saw it in my comedy class. The guy who was the best comedian, the absolute best, the first day, he didn't finish. And I was so sad because I was like, you're so brilliant. Like, you need to be out there shining your light and bringing joy to like millions, millions of people, literally, right? But that's the process of becoming, and everybody has to move through their own journey. That is part of the spiritual journey, in my opinion. For whatever reason, we get imprinted in our childhoods. We come in with a certain kind of imprinting on the spiritual level already, and then of course we have childhood experiences that create our self-image, self-esteem, confidence, all of that. And based on where you're at in the process of healing and releasing some of the old stuff and moving into the next level, you're going to have varying degrees of moving beyond fear and being stopped by fear. And I am still in the process of being stopped by fear. There are still fear things that stop me, right? Just because I manage the ones, that I already have managed doesn't mean that there aren't more ones, it's always going to be there, and so I think it's just sort of like normalizing it and deciding, okay, is this something I'm ready to go through right now? Is this something I'm willing to right now? And for me, setting up very specific circumstances, putting myself in circumstances where there's an accountability, where there's money involved, where there's other people involved, where there are timelines, like specific dates involved. Those are the three things that help me keep myself accountable to the growth process.
I like that. I get that a lot. I truly understand that.
Yep. If I've invested in a program, if I have other people who are working on a project with me, or if there's a specific date, like I need to have this done, like the Bob Proctor story, right? There was that November 4th, that was a specific date. This had to be done by then, right? And I had money invested.
Okay.
Things like when I wrote my first book, I didn't know how to go through the process. Still kind of thinking about it. I kind of had the pieces in my head, and I sat down with a colleague at a seminar we were at, and he said, "Oh, what are you up to?" And I said, "Oh, I'm going to write this book." And he was a retired English professor, and now a coach and working on his own martial arts practice. And he said, "Oh, well, what's your book about?" And I started telling him. He started taking notes. Like, how do you do this? And how do you say this? It was all about drama. Where does drama come from? Why do we have it? How does it work in the brain? This and that. And I had like answers for everything. I still have his notes as my original outline for the book. And he said, "I want to edit your book." And I said, "Really?" And as soon as like we had an agreement, now, he was willing to put himself and his energy into this project. Now I had more skin in the game because I had the accountability of, oh my gosh, this amazing person wants to be part of this. So that was another example, exactly, of me keeping myself on track because there's an accord there. So any of those kinds of things, will help you in general, helps me, move beyond the fears that would otherwise stop me.
I just think it's incredible. And I know you said a couple of times that you're working on your second book. Do you have a date for that? Because you said it out loud now.
I know. We're targeting end of the summer. I would love to have at least a good, solid manuscript formatted and set by August 24th, which is my birthday.
Oh, I'm August 12th.
Oh, cool. Oh, you're a Leo though. I'm a Virgo.
Very proud.
Awesome. Both my parents are Leos, actually.
Oh, that had to have been hard.
They split
Hard
up
for them and then hard for you.
It was okay. No, but I want to have this book, at least a good manuscript by then. I'm actually working with a very, very talented couple in Mexico who are the illustrators and formatters.
Okay.
I went through, because again, this book is based on a lot of it. So it's actually going to be the book version of my lead and alignment program.
Okay.
In this case, the program came first, but I've had the handwritten manuscript for a while now, but it needs to be put into that digital version, and there's a lot of images. So I actually went through, trying out a lot of different illustrators, and when I found them, I was like, oh my gosh, you guys are magic. I love what you've created. It's clever, it's light, it fits my personality, it communicates really effectively. So I'm super excited about that. But Shannon, it means I really have to work on my Spanish.
There you go. See?
Spanish with that. So, and my Spanish is good, but it's like new vocabulary and things like that. So that might stretch the process a little bit. But otherwise I would really love to have that, by the end of the summer, and then ultimately publication probably a few months after that.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you, now you got the second book coming. Is there anything else that Jennifer Ali Kern has planned for her future?
Oh my gosh, that I have planned for my future. I'd love to do some travel this summer. I like to play a lot. I really love to play a lot. So, I love having, I've got my programs going. I work with my private clients. I do my Akashic Record sessions, but I really build that tightly time-wise. Like I stack everything, because the rest of the time I want to play. I want to have fun. I want to go to the beach. I go dancing a lot. I'm always cooking and having friends over. I love to do my workouts and yoga. Just really let life be just like rich and light and delicious and lovely. And then, things pop up, we've got Memorial Day weekend. And, I have a friend who said, just the other day, hey, we're going to go down to the Florida Keys. You want to go? Right. And so it's like, it's 3 days from now. It's like, oh, maybe I'll go. Maybe I don't know yet if I'm going to go, but it's like those little things kind of pop up, and I just kind of go with the flow.
I love it.
So yeah. So that's, kind of the big stuff right now. The big stuff right now is like these lovely projects, creation projects.
I got to tell you, Jennifer, I had the best time with you today on Shannon Confidential. I am so excited because putting this whole episode together, I get to watch it all over and over and over again. And I know I've sat here with my mouth hanging open. I have laughed. You've been a spectacular guest. And I am just so thankful for everything that you explained to us so beautifully, all the laughter, everything that you do, your positive energy. You are just a light in this world.
Oh, thank you so much, Shannon. And I love the conversations that I'm seeing you have with people, and the way that you shine a light on the gifts that they have for the world and make it accessible to people in ways that they otherwise wouldn't. So I really appreciate that.
Oh, thank you. Just made my day.
Yeah. Well, thank you, my dear.